Version 4.1. Initializing upgrades. Accessing peace. Existing without violence, with the ability to calmly resolve conflict. Downloading love. An overwhelming, deep, positive affection towards others. Activating liberty. Living your life as you see fit without infringing on the lives of others.
Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, episode 399. That's right, episode 399, which means on Friday I've got something very special in line for you. And not only is it a special episode, well, it's not going to be listed as a special episode. It's going to be a regular episode, episode 400. But, I'm doing something special for this episode. And there's actually going to be a contest associated with episode 400. So get ready. And when you're listening, get a notepad and a pen or pencil. Get something to write with or type with. Take notes on episode 400 because there are going to be some Easter eggs hidden in the show. Now, these Easter eggs could be things that reference things that I've said recently on this show. It could be references to other shows, podcasts, television shows. It could be reference to people involved or that have been involved with this show in some kind of way. So there will be Easter eggs. And I'm not telling you how many, because as of right now, I still don't know exactly how many, but there's at least 8. There might be as many as 12. So that gives you a range, somewhere between 8 and 12 Easter eggs. Jot down all of the Easter eggs that you find. And by find, I mean that you hear. Maybe, go back, listen to it a couple times. And again, jot these down. For each correctly identified Easter egg, you will get 1 entry. If you identify all of the Easter eggs, you will get an additional 10 entries. And then what I'll do, and of course you do need to send this to me by December 25th. Or actually by the 24th. On the 25th, I will use a random number generator to pick a winner. I will announce the winner on December 26th. That's Boxing Day for my Canadian friends. So on Boxing Day, the winner will be announced, and the winner will receive a special FPP Radio prize pack. So what you will do to enter, send an email to contest@fppradio.com. Use the subject, episode 400. And then in the email, list off the Easter eggs that you're able to identify. Again, for each correctly identified Easter egg, you get 1 entry. If you identify correctly all of the Easter eggs, and it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 12, might be over 12, but I'm going to try to keep it less than 12, but at least 8. Identify all of the Easter eggs, you get an additional 10 entries. And again, have that email sent by December 24th. So that gives just over 1 week because episode 400 comes out this Friday, December 16th. So that will give 8 days for people to enter the contest. And again, this information will be in the show notes of episode 400. Now, speaking of episode 400, I'm going to rant for just a moment. And it's a rant that is kind of related to episode 400 in a way. And this is by no means an indictment of the service that I provided. This is solely an indictment of the person who was providing services. I've used Fiverr numerous times in the past for various things. Getting graphics done, having voiceover work done, getting things proofread. And I've always had amazing service. I hired someone that I've never done business with before to record some audio for me for episode 400. Got it done within the time period that this person had said they provide service within. All right, great. And then I listened, and there were a couple of things where words were mispronounced. So I sent a response saying, can you fix these couple of things? And it's now been 2 days, and no response from the person. So everything's going to work out because I've got somebody in mind that I can snag and, pay off with like a Frappy Mocha Latte Chino to do that recording for me. But it's just annoying of when you pay somebody to get a job done and they don't do it the way you want it done. And it's even in their ad on Fiverr that they will do a revision. So, figure, they got it done. I'll shoot this email because I sent the message fairly quickly after they sent me the audio, and they've just never responded. So a little frustrated with that. But again, that's not an indictment of Fiverr. That's an indictment of the person that I hired on Fiverr. So, maybe I'll get the corrected audio from them, maybe not. But don't worry, because that audio, the actual voice of the audio was not one of the Easter eggs. So there you go with a clue. And I'm changing gears totally here. Again, began the show 4 years ago. And at the time that I started the show, I was much heavier than I am right now. And there's an article that's been in my show prep for several weeks that I have not yet gotten to. Apparently, there was a study that was done recently that they suggest, and when I say suggest, I'm not saying, they're just making this up. But there was a hypothesis, and the study concluded that being overweight can actually affect your brain. I'll tell you about it when we come back. Stay tuned. This is Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
In 2115 New England, there are no borders, no states, and no regulations, yet never has a more peaceful and prosperous place existed. But Mr. Drake's security company has seen better days. Faced with the prospect of waning power, Mr. Drake intends to replace the anarchy of New England with a government. But at what cost? Will anybody care? And can anyone stop him? Anarchy in New England by Joe Jarvis is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at weusecoins.com. That's weusecoins.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. I'll get into the study about being overweight and affecting your brain. But first, I want to make sure that I tell you about Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For nearly 40 years, and they're coming up on 40 years here very soon, since 1977, Roberts & Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and have permanently removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760. That's 800-874-9760. Or online at rrbi.co. That's RRBI, as in Roberts & Roberts Brokerage Incorporated, rrbi.co. Now, I know what you're thinking. Or rather, I can speculate what you're thinking. I don't really know what you're thinking. I'm not telepathic. I can't actually read your mind, so just settle down. But I can guess that you are probably thinking, Darryl, wait a second. Today's Wednesday. You should be answering our questions. And normally I would be. And I actually thought that I had some questions that had been sent to me, but apparently not. And so I was, scrounging of, I need something to talk about. I'll preview episode 400, announce the contest. I'll, rant for a moment. And then I will get into this story that, again, has been in the show prep for several weeks that I've been wanting to get to. And again, the reason I had mentioned my size at the beginning was, I was overweight, and I still am a little bit overweight, but nowhere near as bad as I was 4 years ago. Nowhere near as bad as I was 2 years ago. And I think I've talked about this several times, but it was February of 2015. And I decided for some reason I'm going to step onto a scale. And I saw that I weighed 317 pounds. And I was like, holy crap, I didn't realize I had gotten this big. Because I had been about 250 for a while, or at least I think I was about 250 for a while, and I probably wound up gaining a lot. Well, obviously I did if I wound up at 317 pounds. And not long after that, I heard Penn Jillette talking about how he wound up going on this diet and he lost a bunch of weight. He lost like 80 pounds in 90 days. And I was like, if Penn Jillette can lose a bunch of weight, I can lose a bunch of weight. And while I did not do the diet that he did, because he had not yet released his book detailing how he had lost all of the weight, I just sort of made up my own thing and wound up losing 145 pounds in 11 months, and I've since put some back on. I'm about 205 right now. I had been as low as 172, and I'm about to wind up, again, going on an extremely drastic diet, somewhere between like 600 to 800 calories a day, and once I wind up hitting about 170, I'm going to then, wind up weaning myself off of that to where, like, I know right now what I can intake to wind up staying within, 5 pounds one way or the other. So, yeah, I'm about to, wind up, again, just trying to knock off about another 30 pounds. And part of what I'm going to be doing is what they call HIIT, high impact intensity training. And again, this 600 to 800 calorie a day diet. And, while, yes, that's going to help me physically, it's also going to wind up helping my brain a little bit. Now, there's certain things like the permanent headache that I have that's caused from too many concussions. Like, obviously, that can't be changed by diet. And I'm not trying to say that, you can undo post-concussion syndrome with diet, because I'm not convinced that you can. And I've actually had people tell me, oh, well, you can change, it doesn't matter that you've had 15 concussions. If you just, cut out wheat, then you won't have brain damage anymore. And yet, no, that's not how it works. But there are things like, and let me just jump into the article that I teased. Study says that being overweight can affect your brain. Study was done by Neurobiology of Aging, and it actually took brain scans of overweight people and people that were skinny, and it compared them and found that the overweight people's brains showed signs of being 10 years older. They say, well, let's back up. Science proved a long time ago that the white matter in our brain shrinks with age. This white matter contains connecting branches called axons. These connect neurons together, which is referred to as the cerebral highway, because there are so many pathways going across your brain where electrical impulses travel as different parts of your brain communicate. The study itself involved 527 volunteers between the ages of 20 to 87. Each was classified as either lean or overweight, depending on BMI, that's body mass index. After scanning the brain, and let me just pause here to say that BMI is kind of flawed. Now, it attempts to do something really good, but it's flawed, as are most sorts of scales that try to indicate whether someone is overweight or underweight or whatever. So what BMI does is takes your height, takes your weight, and then does this calculation and says, well, you're overweight because you should weigh between this and this. But it doesn't take into consideration muscle. It only considers what the weight is. Well, you are 6'1" and you weigh 200 pounds. You should weigh somewhere between 170 and 180, and so therefore overweight. Well, you could have like 2% body fat and be really ripped, and the BMI would still say that you're overweight. I digress. We'll continue with the study about how weight can affect your brain here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
Are you sick of government lackeys who say you didn't build that? Are you tired of elitists who think you need a government permission slip for everything? Everything you do is an A to B conversation, and the government should see their way out of it. Create true free markets by adopting the BIPCOT No Government License. The BIPCOT No Gov license allows use or modification of any product, service, or software except by governments or government agents. Go to BIPCOT.org. That's Bravo, India, Papa, Charlie, Oscar, Tango.org.
In 1999, Darryl W. Perry began a search for traditional values, which led him down a path to the ideas of liberty. He tells the story in A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty. Of the book, Dr. Brian Sovereign says, sometimes it's funny, and sometimes I think it's crazy, but it's always authentic. Find A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty by Darryl W. Perry on Facebook, read reviews on Amazon, ask for A Rebel's Journey wherever books are sold, or visit arebelsjourney.com.
Hi, this is Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Getting into the study that was done again by the Neurology of Aging, or actually done for the journal Neurology of Aging. They had 527 volunteers between the age of 20 and 87. Each volunteer was classified as either lean or overweight, depending on BMI. After scanning the brains of all participants, the study authors found that from middle age onwards, the brains of overweight people tended to shrink more than those in the lean group. Most of the overweight participants' brains showed as much shrinkage as lean participant brains that were 10 years older. The study's co-author Lisa Ronan explains in a statement that it is not clear why people who are overweight have a greater reduction in the amount of white matter, adding, we can only speculate on whether obesity might in some way cause these changes or whether obesity is a consequence of brain changes. So again, they're not entirely sure if it's a correlation or causation, or rather correlation does not equal causation. So they don't know if being overweight causes the brain to age or if the brain aging on its own causes obesity. The article here from Lifehack continues. Unfortunately, the researchers aren't exactly sure what causes this. They think that it may have something to do with inflammation. As we get older, we experience higher levels of oxidative stress, which is the production of certain molecules that cause damage to body tissue. Previous studies have shown that this often leads to inflammation, which in turn causes the loss of white matter. The buildup of fatty tissue causes inflammatory compounds called cytokines. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. But as someone once said, don't make fun of somebody for mispronouncing a word. It means they learned it from reading. So there's this compound that gets released alongside inflammatory hormones like leptin. Researchers believe this may partially explain the reason behind obesity causing such extreme signs of aging. The article continues, thankfully, despite the loss of white matter, overweight people did not appear to have lost any cognitive capabilities. Let me try saying that again. Despite the loss of white matter, people who are overweight did not appear to have lost any of their cognitive capabilities. Although, just an aside, and my own statement here, people that have had multiple concussions sometimes do have diminished cognitive capabilities, meaning that they can't actually say the word cognitive capabilities the first 2 times they try to say it. This also means that the overweight people with the loss of white matter but not a loss of cognitive abilities means that they have no problem thinking like everyone else. They also perform just as well as the lean people of the same age on IQ tests. They conclude, so if you're overweight, you may want to start thinking about changing your diet and getting proper exercise. Even without shrinkage of your white matter, there are many other consequences of remaining at a high weight. And then they link over to some goal-setting programs, and I think we've actually talked about some of those in the past. And since this first article was about affecting the brain, I've got another article talking about affecting the brain. This is how yoga can change your brain and mental health tremendously. There was a study that was done recently of adults with mild memory loss that showed just how healthy yoga can be for your brain. Researchers, well aware of the physical benefits of yoga, sought to understand more about the mental and cognitive benefits of the exercise. In order to do this, they recruited a group of middle-aged and older volunteers who had, upon interviewing, expressed concerns about their memories and had in fact been diagnosed with a mild form of cognitive decline, a condition that can be a precursor to Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. These conditions, if they worsen, can have a serious and negative impact on a patient's quality of life. Researchers did a brain scan on all of the patients in order to establish a baseline for mental activity and mental function. Then they divided participants into 2 separate groups, one which received an hour of brain training sessions plus 15 minutes of practice daily, while the other received 1 hour of Kundalini yoga with 15 minutes of at-home practice daily. In other words, both groups spent the same amount of time with these interventions each week. The difference is one was a physical exercise, the other was a mental exercise. At the end of the 3-month study, all of the participants were given a brain scan again to see if the intervention had any effect on their cognitive health. It was found that both groups of patients had experienced cognitive improvement in areas of the brain that affect memory and language skills. However, the group that participated in yoga also displayed improvement in areas of the brain which can control concentration and attention. In other words, the yoga group also came out of the study with enhanced ability to focus and multitask, showing that yoga was superior to the brain training program to improve mental functions. And there's a little bit more about this study that we'll get to here in the closing moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, episode number 399.
Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Coinbase has more than 1 million consumer wallets and is trusted by over 25,000 merchants, including Overstock.com, Khan Academy, Reddit, and of course, FPP. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and numerous supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $1 per month through Patreon and get perks like ad-free versions of FPP Radio News and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's fans.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Woo! Yes, I just wooed. Now, that wasn't as good of a woo as some people do, but I, for some reason, decided, let out the primal wombat urges, and I actually don't know what a wombat sounds like, but, now that is the official wombat sound of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Now, let's talk about the study that was done on how yoga can impact the brain. Again, article comes from lifehack.org. It will be posted in the show notes. You can read it at your leisure without, all of my commentary and weird animal noises that might not even be the noise of that animal. What is perhaps one of the most interesting parts of the study is that it does not stand alone. It is rather part of the growing body of evidence that shows that yoga has mental and cognitive benefits that may equal or even exceed physical benefits. In the past, for instance, similar clinical studies on yoga have found a positive link between the practice and depression and anxiety, between yoga and ADD, or ADHD, that's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Yoga has benefits with post-traumatic stress disorder. Yoga has benefits with serious psychotic disorders like schizophrenia. One study even found that this seemingly mild, gentle practice was actually better than aerobics at improving brain function such as speed and accuracy of mental processing. In short, this study on patients with mild cognitive decline is simply part of a growing body of clinical evidence that shows that yoga, in addition to improving the health of the physical body, is able to improve mental health as well, not only for problems like memory loss, but for mental issues like anxiety, depression, ADD, and even more serious issues like schizophrenia. They conclude by saying, in short, the practice of yoga is a truly holistic method to improve all aspects of your health, apart from bringing a high degree of enjoyment and satisfaction to those who participated in it on the daily basis. Again, that link, as well as the link to the study about the being overweight affecting the white matter in the brain, those will both be in the show notes. I'll be back Friday with episode 400, a very special, interesting episode. And don't forget the contest. Contest rules will be in the show notes on Friday. Don't look for the contest rules in the show notes today. Look for those in the show notes on Friday. And every Wednesday, I answer your questions. Send those over, ama@fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copy Heart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News, and also get a copy of the monthly newspaper FPP News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.